Welcome to Zoe Stories. The first thing you should know about me, I was never supposed to be seen like this. Not in heels, not in lipstick, not in the delicate dress that now clung to me like it was part of my skin. And yet, here I was, standing frozen in the middle of my own living room, the faint sound of Isabella's keys jingling outside the door sending a cold sweat down my spine. I never thought it would happen this way, so sudden, so raw, so real. One moment I was just scrolling through my phone, avoiding the empty silence of the apartment, and the next, Aunt Margot's words echoed in my mind. Sometimes, we don't know what we need until someone shows it to us. And she had shown me, in the quietest, most unforgettable way, exactly what I hadn't known I was craving. The first thing you should know about me? I was never supposed to be seen like this. Not in heels, not in lipstick, not in the delicate dress that now clung to me like it was part of my skin. And yet, here I was, standing frozen in the middle of my own living room, the faint sound of Isabella's keys jingling outside the door sending a cold sweat down my spine. I never thought it would happen this way, so sudden, so raw, so real. One moment I was scrolling through my phone, avoiding the empty silence of the apartment, and the next, Aunt Margot's words echoed in my mind. Sometimes, we don't know what we need until someone shows it to us. And she had shown me, in the quietest, most unforgettable way, exactly what I hadn't known I was craving. My name is Ethan, though this version of me, soft, delicate, trembling in lace and satin, felt like a stranger I had always known. By day, I'm the kind of guy who blends into the background. Office clothes, muted conversations, pretending the world is as ordinary as it seems. By night, or whenever the apartment is empty, I explore a version of myself that most people would never understand. A version that's careful, meticulous, and intensely alive in ways that everyday life rarely allows. It started innocently enough. I'd linger by the women's clothing section at stores, fascinated by textures, colors, the way a simple dress could transform someone's presence. Makeup counters became secret laboratories, brushes and powders my instruments of alchemy. And yet, even in these private explorations, there was always fear that someone would see, that someone would judge, that I would shatter the fragile world I had built for myself. Then there was Isabella, my girlfriend, radiant, unflinching, utterly confident in herself. She had a way of walking into a room and owning it, making everyone else feel like background noise. I loved her for it, yet there was a tension I could never voice. I adored her, yes, but how could I let her see the hidden corners of me? The corners where I secretly trembled in high heels, applied lipstick with shaky hands, and imagined a world where I could exist freely as this delicate version of myself? And Aunt Margot, she was different. Sharp-eyed, knowing, impossibly perceptive. Every weekend at her place, she had a way of noticing what no one else did. The subtle glances I threw at skirts, the faint hesitation when I tried on a new shade of lipstick at home. She never judged. She never questioned. But somehow, she always delivered exactly what I needed without me even realizing it. There was an unspoken magic in her intuition, a power to see through me without ever forcing me to explain. It was a quiet Thursday when it all began. Isabella had left for errands, her car disappearing down the street, leaving me alone in the apartment. The silence wasn't comforting. It was an invitation. I could feel my pulse quicken at the thought of stepping fully into my secret self. It wasn't just about wearing clothes. It was about inhabiting a world I'd only ever glimpsed in mirrors and whispered fantasies. I remembered Aunt Margot's voice as if she were standing right behind me. You don't always know what you need, Ethan. But sometimes you'll feel it. And when you do, don't resist it. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry, or whether the tremor in my hands was excitement, fear, or a confusing mix of both. The apartment seemed to shrink around me, every familiar corner suddenly charged with possibility. My wardrobe suddenly felt like a portal. Soft fabrics, delicate laces, shoes that clicked with the promise of transformation. I hesitated, knowing Isabella could return at any moment, but the pull was irresistible. The thrill of stepping into this other life, of allowing myself to exist in a form that was both beautiful and fragile, was too powerful to ignore. I started with something small, a skirt I had bought months ago but never dared wear. The fabric was cool against my skin, a whisper of silk that made my heartbeat echo in my ears. Next, a blouse, soft and flowing, brushing against my shoulders like a secret caress. And then, the heels, tiny, elegant, impossibly high. I wobbled at first, every step a mixture of terror and exhilaration. My reflection in the mirror startled me. There I was, a version of myself I barely recognized, yet one I had always longed to be. Makeup came next. Each brushstroke felt like magic. A dash of color here, a careful sweep there, and suddenly my face looked softer, more defined, more me. The transformation was physical, yes, but also emotional. I felt exposed, vulnerable, alive in a way I had never felt in the plain, ordinary skin I wore every day. Then, as if summoned by some invisible timing, my phone buzzed. A message from Aunt Margot. Sometimes the things we hide are the things we were meant to find. Enjoy this, my dear. I couldn't help but smile, a mix of fear and gratitude flooding me. She had known somehow. She had always known. And in that moment, I realized I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't turn back from. This was more than a secret hobby, more than a fleeting thrill. This was a revelation, a confrontation with the part of myself I had hidden for too long. And somehow I knew Annie had prepared me for this moment, guided me to it, and now it was up to me to step forward or retreat. The faint sound of Isabella's keys jingling outside reminded me that the world would not pause for my experiment. But inside, I felt a strange clarity. Whatever happened next, I was ready to explore the version of myself I had always feared, always desired, and always longed to become. Because Annie had known exactly what I needed. The elevator dinged behind me, and for a second, I froze, heart hammering, palms slick with sweat. Not because anyone had seen me, but because I wasn't supposed to exist like this, not yet. Not in these clothes, not like this, in the open air of my own apartment where shadows stretched across the walls like they were alive, watching. I hadn't planned for this. The skirt, a soft cream shade with lace edging, had been folded neatly in the back of my drawer for months, untouched. Tonight, curiosity had won. Aunt Margot's cryptic smile from last weekend flickered in my mind, her words echoing almost like a dare. Some truths are easier to discover when no one is looking, but you'll never forget when you do. The moment I slipped it on, something shifted. My reflection wasn't just a mirror image, it was a challenge. The blouse, light and flowing, felt like a gentle rebellion. And the heels, ridiculous and terrifyingly tall, clicked against the hardwood floor as if announcing a secret I wasn't ready to confess. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. A tremor of excitement, a flash of fear, a whisper of something dangerous lurking just beneath exhilaration. I moved toward the window, peering through the blinds. The street outside hummed with ordinary life, utterly oblivious to the transformation happening here. And yet I felt exposed, vulnerable, electric. Every sound, my own breath, the faint scuff of my shoes, the ticking of the radiator, felt amplified, like the world was listening, judging, waiting.
It wasn't vanity.
It wasn't fantasy. It was the precise moment where curiosity collided with possibility. I caught sight of a necklace on the dresser, a delicate chain Aunt Margot had given me, a subtle encouragement to embrace this hidden side of myself. I picked it up, letting it slide over my collarbone, and suddenly, I felt anchored, almost as if the world outside could shatter, intrude, or discover me at any second, and I would still remain entirely me. Then I heard it, a faint creak, not from the apartment, but somewhere else. Maybe the building, maybe my imagination. I held my breath, waiting for Isabella's keys, a neighbor's knock, anything. My reflection stared back at me, unblinking, daring me to step further. And I did, because tonight wasn't about hiding. Tonight was about discovering just how far I could go before fear caught up with me. The soft hum of the city outside had faded into something unreal, like the apartment existed in a bubble separate from the world. I couldn't tell if the sunlight spilling across the floor was warm or harsh. It seemed sharper somehow, highlighting every curve, every fold of the lace skirt I now wore. My reflection caught me mid-step, and for the first time, I didn't see hesitation. I saw daring, a defiance that had quietly simmered beneath years of routine. But then the phone buzzed. A message from Isabella. Almost done. See you soon. Face blowing a kiss. My stomach dropped, a twisting knot of excitement and dread. She could be home in 10 minutes.
20.
I had no idea. The thought of her walking in on me, like this, sent a thrilling shiver down my spine. My hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from anticipation. Could I really let her see this side of me? Or was this a secret meant only for mirrors, for Aunt Margot, for me? I tiptoed toward the dresser, letting my fingers hover over the small box of accessories Aunt Margot had subtly left behind. A pair of delicate earrings, a thin chain bracelet, and a silk scarf. Items that seemed insignificant but somehow transformed the outfit from simple experiment to deliberate persona. I picked the earrings first, letting them dangle and catch the light. Each glint against my cheek felt like a small victory, a silent affirmation. This was real. I existed here. I was not hiding. The mirror became a theater of possibility. I adjusted the scarf around my neck, letting it brush my collarbone in a way that felt electric. I tilted my head, noticing how the light softened the shadows on my face. The blush on my cheeks, applied with trembling precision moments ago, now glowed with a warmth I hadn't anticipated. And my lips, slightly parted, painted with a soft rose hue, felt both fragile and bold. I swallowed hard, aware that every element of this transformation made me more visible, more alive, and infinitely more exposed. Then I heard it, a faint creak from the hallway outside. Not the keys. Not the door. Someone moving, or maybe just the floor settling, but it was enough to make me freeze, breath caught in my throat. The adrenaline coursing through me sharpened every sense. My ears were tuned to the faintest sound, the hum of the refrigerator, the subtle ticking of the wall clock, the swish of my skirt against my legs. Each noise felt amplified, charged with danger and thrill. I took a tentative step back, almost knocking over the perfume bottle Aunt Margot had gifted me. The scent spilled into the air, a delicate floral that clung to me instantly. And in that moment, I realized why she had left these items. This wasn't just about clothing or accessories, it was about embodiment. About taking control of a narrative that had always been whispered in shadows, and stepping into it fully, unapologetically. A sudden impulse made me move toward the balcony. The city stretched below like a living canvas, unaware of the secret transformation happening above. I rested my hands on the railing, feeling the breeze brush against my bare arms exposed by the flowing blouse. It was intoxicating, exhilarating, and yet terrifying. Every instinct screamed caution, but a deeper, hidden instinct urged me forward. Step fully into this, it said. Don't hold back. I glanced again at the mirror across the room. The reflection wasn't just Ethan in a skirt and heels. It was someone entirely new, vulnerable yet powerful, delicate yet unshakably present. I tried to imagine Isabella seeing me like this, her eyes widening in shock, curiosity, maybe even understanding. Could she see the thrill in my trembling hands? The quiet confidence blooming in my posture? The paradox of vulnerability and control dancing through my every move? The heels clicked as I paced, a deliberate rhythm that felt like a heartbeat echoing through the apartment. The soft lace whispered against my skin, teasing me, daring me, reminding me how completely exposed I was. And yet, each step made me more certain. I wasn't hiding. Not anymore. Not for myself. Then my phone buzzed again. Aunt Margot's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. Remember, the risk makes the thrill worth it. Don't rush. Let it unfold. Her message sent a shiver down my spine. She always knew. Always. And now, she was guiding me silently, through texts, through memories, through intuition. I moved toward the living room couch, sinking into the cushions, letting the soft fabric brush against my legs. My mind raced. What if Isabella came back now? Would I crumble? Laugh nervously? Or would I step further, embracing this version of myself in front of her, if only for a fleeting moment? The thought alone made my pulse spike. And then I realized something terrifying and thrilling at once. I didn't want to stop. Not yet. The apartment, once a place of quiet routine, had become a stage, a crucible, a test of desire, courage, and identity. Every item, every brushstroke, every swish of fabric contributed to a truth I had only just begun to understand. The thrill of risk, of exposure, of becoming, was intoxicating. I stood again, adjusting the scarf around my neck, the heels steady beneath me now. My reflection smiled, a small, private victory. Tonight, I was crossing a threshold. And deep down, I knew Aunt Margot had orchestrated this entire moment, gently guiding me to discover not just an outfit or a secret, but an essential piece of myself I had ignored for too long. Outside, the city continued its indifferent rhythm. Inside, I had found a storm of sensation, tension, and awakening. And I was ready to see just how far I could go before the world, or Isabella, returned. The apartment seemed smaller now, charged with a quiet electricity that made the air feel heavier, thicker. I could feel it in the tension of my shoulders, the tautness in my legs as the heels pressed into the hardwood floor. Every sound, every hum of the refrigerator, every faint creak of the building felt magnified, like it could give me away at any second. And yet, I wasn't afraid. Not completely. I was alive. Every fiber of me pulsed with something I hadn't known I could feel: audacity, vulnerability, exhilaration. The skirt swished as I moved toward the window again, testing the balance I had perfected over the past hour. My reflection caught me mid-motion, soft curls falling over my shoulders, a blush highlighting my cheekbones, lips slightly parted, as though on the verge of speech. I barely recognized myself, and that recognition thrilled me. Then the sound came, a subtle knock at the door. My heart froze. Not just a creak or a distant thump, but a deliberate, measured knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. Could it be Isabella back early? Or someone else? Panic flickered, sharp and sudden, but it was mingled with a reckless surge of excitement. My palms were slick, but my fingers didn't tremble. They hovered over the edges of the skirt, the scarf, the delicate bracelet Aunt Margot had insisted I wear. The knock came again, sharper this time, deliberate, impatient. I swallowed hard, stepping back from the window, heels clicking softly against the floor. Each step felt like walking a tightrope stretched between exhilaration and exposure. And somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "You can't turn back now." I moved cautiously toward the door, every nerve alive. The reflection in the mirror caught my eye again, almost taunting me. Their eye was exposed, vulnerable, beautiful in a way that felt forbidden. My lips pressed together, and I could feel my pulse in my throat, my ears, even in the tips of my fingers brushing the lace. Tonight wasn't just an experiment, it was a revelation. But revelation has a cost. I edged closer to the door, each movement measured. The knock came again, insistent, echoing through the apartment. I didn't know whether to hide or answer, to flee or face it. And then the surreal thrill hit me. Whoever was out there would see not just my appearance, but my courage, my vulnerability, my defiance. My heartbeat raced, a drum of tension against my ribs. I glanced around for a place to hide, but nothing seemed right. The apartment was too small, the shadows too shallow. I realized with a shiver that I didn't want to hide. I wanted to be seen. Not fully, perhaps, but enough to taste the edge of exposure, to feel the intoxicating blend of fear and empowerment. My hands hovered over the small box of accessories once more. The earrings dangled, catching the late afternoon light. The silk scarf shimmered as I adjusted it for the 5th time. I slid my fingers along the delicate bracelet, anchoring myself. And then I heard it. Isabella's laugh, soft and familiar, drifting from somewhere down the hall. My heart skipped, then thundered. Not her. Not yet. Relief washed through me, mingling with the residual tension, leaving me trembling, electrified. I sank onto the couch, heels clicking faintly as I settled, and let myself breathe for the first time in minutes. The skirt shifted over my thighs, the blouse brushing lightly against my arms, the necklace warm against my skin. Each sensation was magnified now, every texture a reminder of who I was becoming. I let my eyes drift to the mirror again. This time, I didn't just see the transformation, I felt it. It wasn't just in the clothes, the makeup, or the accessories. It was in the way I carried myself, the way my chest rose and fell, the subtle sway in my hips, the tilt of my head that whispered defiance. This was more than play. This was assertion. Proof that the self I had long hidden wasn't fragile or fleeting. It was alive, potent, undeniable. And yet, even in this private triumph, a tension lingered. The knock at the door, the city outside, the possibility of discovery. They were shadows I couldn't ignore. They made the exhilaration sharper, the vulnerability more acute. Every breath I drew was tinged with danger and desire. I closed my eyes briefly, letting the mixture of fear and empowerment wash over me. My reflection in the mirror shimmered in the dimming light, and for the first time, I didn't see Ethan as a separate entity. I saw him and her, the hidden self and the public self, coexisting in a delicate balance, both equally alive, equally real. And then I felt a new determination rise inside me. The thrill of risk, the ecstasy of transformation, the sharp edge of possible discovery, they were all part of the same pulse. I couldn't hide. I wouldn't hide. Not tonight. Because tonight, everything was about to change. The knock came again, this time heavier, more deliberate, echoing through the apartment like a warning. I froze mid-step, one heel teetering on the edge of the coffee table rug. My pulse thundered in my ears, masking the faint city sounds outside. Someone was there. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe Isabella. For a fleeting second, the exhilaration I had been savoring turned icy. My hands hovered over the silk scarf, the delicate bracelet, the earrings. Each accessory felt suddenly sacred, a fragile shield between exposure and safety. The apartment, once a haven for my private transformation, now felt like a trap. Every shadow, every reflection became a potential threat. I remembered Aunt Margot's words again. The things you fear are the things you need to confront. But confronting this fear meant stepping fully into who I was, a version of myself I had only begun to embrace. Every fiber of lace against my skin, every swirl of my skirt, every brushstroke of makeup was a declaration I existed. But could I survive being seen like this? The doorknob rattled lightly. My breath caught. I could feel the tension coil in my chest, pressing against my ribcage. I considered hiding, darting behind the couch, slipping into the shadows, but my body refused. Something inside me urged forward, curiosity stronger than fear. This was more than clothing or a secret hobby. This was the self I had long denied, demanding recognition, daring me to acknowledge it even if the world outside wasn't ready. I inched toward the door, heels clicking softly on the floor. My reflection in the mirror caught the movement, a ghostly double mirroring my hesitation and daring. I reached the door, fingers grazing the knob. The apartment seemed suspended in time. Every second stretched like elastic, every sound exaggerated. And then, a sudden flicker of motion outside the peephole, a shadow crossing, a figure pausing. Panic and thrill collided. I swallowed hard, feeling the necklace Aunt Margot had given me press against my collarbone, grounding me. It was a small anchor in the chaos of sensation. My mind raced through possibilities. Open the door, retreat, speak, freeze. And yet, I realized with a jolt that the fear wasn't the point. The thrill wasn't the danger itself. It was the revelation of stepping fully into the identity I had long hidden. I pivoted slightly, glancing at the mirror one last time. The reflection staring back was no longer hesitant. The lips parted in a quiet, daring smile. The eyes, wide and alert, carried a defiance that sent a shiver down my spine. I was balancing on the edge of exposure and empowerment, and I knew this delicate equilibrium was fragile. One wrong move, one unexpected glance, could tip it all. Then the door handle turned. Slowly, smoothly. I froze completely, the heels digging into the floor. My heartbeat thundered, echoing through my chest like war drums. Whoever was on the other side, friend, neighbor, or Isabella, was about to witness a version of me that I had barely allowed myself to acknowledge. Vulnerable, bold, alive, delicate, defiant, all at once. And just as the door creaked open, a voice, soft, teasing, impossibly familiar, called out, "Ethan?" Time seemed to stop. My reflection mirrored the shock, the thrill, the terror. And in that suspended heartbeat, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. This moment wasn't just about being discovered. It was about confronting the full spectrum of who I was, the hidden self that had demanded acknowledgement for years. The door opened a fraction wider, and I took a tentative step forward, heels clicking sharply. My skirt swayed with each move, my breath caught between fear and delight. I could see a shadow of curiosity, a flicker of recognition, or maybe judgment, waiting on the other side. And in that instant, I understood. The transformation wasn't just physical. It was emotional, psychological, unavoidable. I could never go back to hiding entirely. The thrill of risk, the allure of exposure, the intoxicating vulnerability, they had claimed me completely. I straightened my shoulders, let the scarf settle around my neck, and inhaled deeply. Whatever was waiting outside the door, I was ready, not just to be seen, but to exist fully, unapologetically, in every layer of delicate, dangerous beauty I had become. The door lingered ajar, a narrow slit of possibility and danger. Every nerve in my body screamed at me, warning and urging at the same time. My heels dug into the hardwood, swaying slightly as I balanced between fear and exhilaration. The skirt clung lightly to my legs, the lace edges brushing my skin with each subtle movement. I had never felt so exposed, yet never so alive. A faint shadow moved beyond the door, almost teasing me, like the world itself was aware of my secret transformation. I could hear my own breath now, loud in my ears, mingling with the distant hum of traffic outside. Every second stretched unbearably long. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye one last time before I turned toward the door. The eyes staring back weren't just cautious, they were daring. They were alive. "Ethan, are you there?" The voice, familiar and light, trembled slightly, like it was testing the air. My pulse spiked. Could it really be Isabella? Or someone else entirely? The possibility of being caught, of having my secret exposed, sent a shiver down my spine. Yet within that fear was a strange, heady thrill, a validation I hadn't expected. I inched forward, letting the fabric of the skirt sway with each step. My fingers brushed the delicate necklace Aunt Margot had given me. It felt like a lifeline, a tether to courage in a storm of adrenaline and doubt. My lips parted slightly, unsure whether to speak, to apologize, to pretend. But the mirror had already taught me something. Silence could be as powerful as words. Presence, in itself, was a declaration. A sudden movement outside made me flinch. The door handle clicked. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, it turned. My reflection froze in the mirror, and I felt the tiniest flutter of panic, a pulse of exhilaration that left me lightheaded. The person beyond the door didn't enter. They paused, testing, hesitating. That hesitation mirrored my own. I took a deep breath, letting the perfume I had chosen drift lightly around me. The floral scent felt like armor now, like a shield against judgment, a mark of transformation fully claimed. Every inch of me, heels, skirt, blouse, jewelry, was no longer just clothing. It was identity, choice, rebellion, and revelation all wrapped into one fragile, potent package. Then, without warning, the door creaked wider. A thin shaft of light cut across the room, illuminating the lace edges of my skirt, the soft curve of my shoulders, the delicate shimmer of the scarf around my neck. My reflection caught the light, and I realized with a jolt, I wasn't just visible. I was radiant. Vulnerable, yes. Exposed, yes. But radiant in a way that dared the world to look and maybe, just maybe, understand. The shadow moved closer. I could feel the anticipation, the tremor in the air, the electric pull of being seen. The thrill of risk, the danger of discovery, had become indistinguishable from the exhilaration of transformation itself. I felt every heartbeat, every shiver, every pulse of adrenaline, as if it were a drum marking the rhythm of a moment I would never forget. A faint laugh drifted through the crack of the door, soft, incredulous, amused. My knees nearly gave way. But I stood, anchored by the necklace, the heels, the costume of my secret self. It was terrifying, intoxicating, liberating all at once. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just play. This was evolution. A crossing of thresholds I hadn't dared imagine before. I swallowed hard, letting my voice tremble just enough when I finally whispered, "Yes, it's me." The words hung in the charged air, almost swallowed by the apartment itself. For a heartbeat, silence answered. Then movement. A shadow shifted, and I could almost feel the gaze. Curious, judging, perhaps understanding, measuring this new, fragile, daring self I had revealed. And then the door stopped. Not open, not closed, suspended. The suspense lingered, sharp and delicious, like a held breath. I could feel it in my chest, my stomach, my fingertips. Every sense screamed attention, danger, possibility. The world outside might discover me at any second, or retreat, leaving me trembling, victorious, and utterly alive in the afterglow of transformation. I turned slightly, catching the mirror once more. The reflection staring back wasn't just Ethan in a skirt and heels. It was someone entirely new, someone I had only dared glimpse in stolen moments, only allowed myself to feel when alone. And now, that version of me existed in full, balanced on the thin edge between exposure and empowerment, fear and exhilaration, secrecy and revelation. I knew one thing with absolute clarity: nothing would ever be the same after this night. The thrill of risk, the intoxicating vulnerability, the heady power of being fully seen, or nearly seen, had claimed me. Aunt Margot had been right. The things we fear most often hold the keys to our deepest truths. And, tonight, I had discovered mine. The door remained slightly ajar. Shadows played along the walls. The city hummed softly outside. And inside, I stood, balanced on heels, draped in lace and confidence, trembling yet unbroken, exposed yet electrified, ready for whatever the next moment would bring. Because the secret had already been born, and there was no going back. The knock that had haunted me all evening finally returned, sharper this time, impossible to ignore. My breath caught in my chest, heels clicking nervously against the floor as I froze mid-step. Every sense was heightened: the soft hum of the refrigerator, the distant city noise, even the subtle swish of my skirt seemed amplified, echoing like a drumbeat through the apartment. I inched toward the door, a mixture of dread and exhilaration knotting my stomach. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, a delicate, trembling figure poised on the edge of audacity and fear. I could see it all in that image: the lace brushing against my thighs, the faint shimmer of my necklace, the soft blush highlighting my cheekbones. Every detail screamed vulnerability and courage at once. The doorknob rattled. Slowly. Tentatively. My pulse thundered in my ears as the door clicked open a fraction. Shadows stretched into the room, and for a fleeting heartbeat, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then a familiar voice cut through the tension. "Ethan? Are you serious?" The words barely registered. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my jaw. I wanted to respond, to explain, to retreat, but my body refused. The transformation I had embraced, physical, emotional, psychological, was no longer a secret I could retract. I was fully present, fully visible, and yet every instinct screamed caution. I swallowed, lips trembling, and whispered, "Yes, it's me." Silence followed. A pause so thick it pressed against my chest, making every heartbeat echo louder. I could feel a shadow shifting in the doorway, a subtle hesitation that mirrored my own. Then laughter, soft, incredulous, and tinged with curiosity. I realized then that this was no longer about hiding. It was about acknowledgement, about daring to exist fully even in the face of judgment. The skirt swayed lightly as I moved closer, heels clicking with newfound confidence, every step a delicate defiance. My reflection in the mirror smiled back at me, daring me to embrace the vulnerability and the power simultaneously. The person beyond the door stepped fully into the light, and I could finally see the reaction. Eyes wide, a hand flying to the mouth in shock, a mixture of awe and disbelief. I felt my chest rise and fall, every breath a statement. I was no longer just Ethan. I was someone entirely new, someone bold, fragile, daring, and unashamed. A sudden noise from the hallway made me jump, a sharp reminder that danger, curiosity, and exposure were intertwined. But instead of retreating, I stepped forward, letting the skirt swirl around me, letting the necklace glint, letting the soft blush and delicate curls announce my transformation. Every inch of me radiated a story I had long kept hidden, and now it was impossible to ignore. The visitor's gaze flicked between my face and my outfit, lingering on the details that mattered most. The heels, the lace, the blush, the subtle defiance in my posture. Their expression shifted, a mixture of disbelief, curiosity, and an unspoken acknowledgement that the person they had known was gone, replaced by someone simultaneously delicate and unstoppable. My heart raced, not just from fear, but from exhilaration. The thrill of being caught, the danger of exposure, and the intoxicating power of this new identity collided in a symphony of sensation. I realized then that the moment I had feared, longed for, and prepared for was here. And I wasn't hiding. I was alive in a way I had never dared before. The visitor took a hesitant step closer, their shadows stretching across the floor, illuminating the lace, the heels, the soft shimmer of makeup. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and electric, pressing against my skin. I could retreat, I could crumble, but I didn't. Instead, I let the vulnerability linger, let the exposure hum like a live wire, thrilling and terrifying all at once. Then, unexpectedly, a soft smile broke across the visitor's face. I didn't think you could be like this," they murmured, awe and curiosity mingling in their tone. That single acknowledgement, that delicate acceptance, sent a jolt of exhilaration through me. The fear didn't vanish, but it shifted. It became a spark, a reminder that revelation, however risky, carried its own rewards. I took a careful step closer, letting the skirt sway, letting the blush glow, letting the heels assert themselves with every deliberate motion. My reflection in the mirror caught the movement, a silent affirmation. This was no longer about hiding or playing. This was about existing fully, unapologetically, and beautifully on the edge of discovery. The apartment, once quiet and safe, now felt alive, charged with tension, curiosity, and possibility. Shadows danced across the walls, the city hummed faintly in the background, and the soft swish of the lace skirt became a rhythm, a heartbeat, a declaration. I wasn't just visible. I was present, undeniable, transformed. And yet, even in the thrill of exposure and acknowledgement, a tiny seed of fear remained. What came next? How would the night unfold? The answer hovered in the open doorway, a suspenseful, unresolved question that demanded action, courage, and resolve. I inhaled deeply, letting the perfume linger in the air, letting the necklace weigh lightly against my collarbone, letting the heels root me firmly in this moment. Whatever happened next, I was ready. Ready to be seen, ready to confront, ready to embrace every inch of this delicate, daring, electrifying transformation. Because tonight, nothing would remain hidden. And every heartbeat, every glance, Every movement was a step further into the truth I had finally claimed. The visitor's presence filled the apartment like a tangible weight. Every creak of the floor, every subtle shift of shadow felt magnified. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, a relentless drum reminding me of the fragile boundary between exposure and concealment. I swayed slightly on the heels, skirt brushing against my legs, each movement a whisper of vulnerability and defiance intertwined. I didn't know, the voice stammered, trembling between disbelief and curiosity. Their eyes lingered on my reflection in the mirror, then flicked down at the delicate lace, the shimmer of makeup, the carefully chosen accessories. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, not shame, but exhilaration. Being seen like this, fully, dangerously, was intoxicating. A part of me screamed to retreat, to shrink back into safety, to hide behind the walls I had built for years. But another part, fiercer and bolder, urged forward. This was no longer a secret game. This was revelation. A declaration. Every inch of me, heels, skirt, blouse, blush, demanded acknowledgement. And tonight, I had decided that fear would not dictate my steps. The visitor took a hesitant step closer, and I could see the mixture of awe and uncertainty in their expression. Their hand brushed against the doorframe, almost tentative, as if they were testing the air, the space, the reality of the transformation before them. I inhaled sharply, letting the perfume cling to me like armor, letting the delicate necklace press against my collarbone as a tether to courage. "You look different," they whispered, voice low, almost reverent. "I didn't think this side of you existed." I swallowed, lips trembling, and let a small smile curl on my own. "It does. I've always existed like this," I admitted, letting the words hang, fragile and bold in the charged air. My reflection caught the movement, a silent twin acknowledging the audacity of confession. Vulnerable yet daring, fragile yet unbreakable. A sudden noise from the street below, a car horn, a shout, made me flinch. My heartbeat spiked, heels digging into the floor. The visitor's gaze flicked sharply toward the window, tension mirrored in their posture. I realized then that every sound, every movement outside, every possibility of intrusion heightened the intoxicating risk. Every second was a tightrope, every glance a challenge. Can I touch?" the voice asked hesitantly. My eyes met theirs, wide, curious, tentative. The question was simple, but it carried weight. Vulnerability hung between us, like mist. The skirt swayed slightly as I shifted, every inch of lace and fabric a fragile declaration of self I had only just claimed. I nodded slightly, heart pounding. Yes, but gently. Their hand moved slowly, brushing against the bracelet, delicate, almost reverent. The touch sent an unexpected jolt of electricity through me, not just physical, but emotional, a reminder that exposure could be thrilling, transformative, and dangerously intoxicating all at once. My mind raced, teetering between fear and exhilaration. What if someone came? What if Isabella returned unexpectedly? The possibility of exposure, of discovery, was real, immediate, and thrilling. But the exhilaration of being acknowledged, of having this hidden self touched and recognized, outweighed the terror. I had never felt so alive, so present, so undeniably me. The visitor's eyes met mine again, softening with a mix of awe and curiosity. "You're incredible," they murmured. The words, simple yet loaded, resonated deep within me. The reflection in the mirror seemed to swell, as if confirming that this recognition, this acknowledgement, was not just external, but internal. I had crossed a line, shattered a barrier, and claimed a truth that was mine alone. Then a sudden sound, a key in the lock, faint but unmistakable, made both of us freeze. The tension spiked instantly. My mind screamed, "Isabella." The thrill, the fear, the danger, all surged in a tidal wave. Heels clicked sharply as I stepped back, skirts swaying, every movement an exercise in balance between composure and panic. The visitor instinctively moved closer, shielding the moment, the fragile declaration of self that hung suspended in the room. Their presence was comforting yet electrifying, a paradox that mirrored my own tumultuous emotions. Every heartbeat, every breath, every glimmer of lace became a battleground between vulnerability and empowerment, risk and exhilaration. And then, the key turned fully in the lock. The apartment's door rattled, the sound echoing like a drum of inevitability. My reflection caught the motion, wide-eyed, trembling, poised on the brink of exposure. Every fiber of my being hummed with anticipation, fear, and a rush of triumph. Tonight, nothing would remain hidden. The visitor's presence, the transformation, the thrill of revelation, it all converged in one taut, electric moment. And I knew, with a mixture of dread and delight, that the ultimate test was upon me, to stand, fully revealed, fully vulnerable and fully alive, as the world, or at least Isabella, finally knocked on the door of my new reality. The key turned fully in the lock, and my stomach dropped. Every muscle in my body tensed, heels digging into the floor as if they could anchor me against the tidal wave of fear and anticipation crashing through me. My skirt swayed lightly, lace brushing against my thighs, a soft reminder of the vulnerability I had embraced. The door creaked open, and there she was, Isabella. Her eyes widened, scanning me from head to toe. Shock. Curiosity. A flicker of something unreadable. My breath caught, chest tight, as if I had been holding it for hours. She hadn't expected this delicate, daring, transformed version of me standing fully revealed in our apartment. "Ethan, what?" she stammered, voice trailing off. Her gaze lingered, flitting over the heels, the skirt, the blouse, the subtle blush on my cheeks, the scarf gracefully draped around my neck. I could feel the tension in her posture, the pause in her breathing, the subtle hesitation that mirrored my own fear. I swallowed hard, letting the words find me before they left my lips. "It's me," I whispered, voice trembling slightly but firm. All of this, it's me." For a heartbeat, silence answered. Then, almost imperceptibly, she stepped closer, eyes searching mine. I didn't know." Her voice shook, soft and uncertain, as if she were balancing between disbelief, curiosity, and acceptance. My pulse raced, heels clicking faintly as I shifted my weight, skirts swaying with emotion. Every movement was a negotiation between fear and exhilaration, exposure and empowerment. A sudden knock on the window startled us both. A delivery guy, a neighbor, something from the world beyond our apartment. My heart skipped a beat, the thrill of potential exposure slicing through the room like electricity. I pressed my hands lightly against the fabric of my skirt, feeling its delicate texture anchor me in the moment. Vulnerable, yes, but electrifyingly alive. Isabella's gaze softened, lingering on the subtle details I had meticulously arranged, the blush highlighting my cheekbones, the necklace catching the light, the way my hair curled perfectly around my shoulders. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. You look beautiful." The word hit me like a spark, igniting a thrill I hadn't dared hope for. Recognition, validation, desire. Fear and exhilaration collided in my chest, each beat a drum of liberation and uncertainty. I realized then that this wasn't just about clothing or makeup or disguise. It was about being seen fully, unapologetically, undeniably. A sudden thought struck me. What if she didn't accept this fully? What if the moment I had risked everything for, Aunt Margot's subtle guidance, the long nights of secret transformation, crumbled in disbelief or judgment? I swallowed, feeling the tension coil in my stomach like a live wire. Then she reached out, almost tentatively, brushing a curl behind my ear. The touch was gentle, deliberate, and it sent a jolt of electricity through me, tingling in every nerve. Vulnerability became empowerment in that single motion, and I realized the magnitude of what I had done. I had claimed my identity, my truth, in full, and it was being acknowledged. A sudden sound, a car horn blaring, a shout from the street below, reminded us both that the world outside had no idea what was unfolding here. The thrill of exposure, of almost being discovered, pulsed through the room like a living thing. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, and I saw not just Ethan or the transformed self, but a fusion of both, fragile yet radiant, trembling yet unbreakable. Isabella's voice trembled again, softer now, almost reverent. I had no idea you felt like this. Her eyes searched mine, seeking truth in every flutter of my expression. And in that moment, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about her acceptance. It was about mine. The risk, the fear, the thrill of being fully revealed. It had led me here. Fully. Alive. Unafraid. I stepped slightly closer, letting the skirt sway, letting the necklace glint, letting the blush highlight the audacity of revelation. Every inch of me radiated the story I had hidden for so long, now impossible to conceal. And as Isabella's gaze lingered, filled with curiosity and awe, I felt a pulse of liberation wash through me. Then the phone buzzed on the counter, Aunt Margot's name flashing. I glanced at it briefly, remembering her words. The things you fear are the keys to your deepest truths. Tonight, I had confronted those fears fully. Tonight, I had stepped into the identity I had long denied. And tonight, for the first time, someone else, not just a mirror, not just Aunt Margot, acknowledged it. The door clicked softly behind her as she shifted slightly, the tension in the room thick but electric. Every sound, every glance, every heartbeat was magnified. I was exposed, yes, but exhilarated, alive, and unapologetically present. The transformation was complete, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically. I had crossed a threshold, and in the silence that followed, with the city humming softly beyond the walls, I realized the truth. Nothing would ever be the same. Not for me, not for Isabella, not for the fragile, exhilarating, intoxicating identity I had claimed tonight. The reflection in the mirror caught my eye once more, a radiant, daring version of myself, standing tall in lace and heels, trembling yet unbroken, vulnerable yet electrifying. And I knew, without doubt, that this was only the beginning. The air in the apartment felt charged, thick with tension and possibility. Isabella's eyes never left me, a mixture of curiosity, awe, and something unspoken flickering across her expression. I could feel the delicate weight of the necklace against my collarbone, the soft lace brushing my thighs, the heels pressing into the floor, each detail magnified in this moment of exposure. Ethan, she began, then faltered, her voice trembling as if she weren't sure how to navigate the fragile, electrifying reality in front of her. The hesitation only amplified the thrill and fear coursing through me. My heart pounded, a drumbeat echoing in my ears, each pulse reminding me of the risk, the danger, and the exhilarating power of being fully seen. I took a careful step closer, skirt swaying softly, feeling the fine textures of the fabric and the cool brush of the bracelet Aunt Margot had insisted I wear. The reflection in the mirror caught the motion, revealing a version of myself I had long kept hidden, vulnerable, daring, radiant, and now fully alive. Then, the faintest sound, a knock at the neighbor's door, a distant voice, something mundane yet terrifyingly loud in this suspended bubble of tension. Every instinct screamed that I could be discovered at any second. But the thrill of it, the intoxicating edge of exposure, surged through me like electricity. I wasn't just risking discovery. I was embracing the full scope of my transformation, the delicate dance between vulnerability and power. Isabella's gaze softened. Her hand reached out, tentative, brushing a curl behind my ear. The touch was light, almost reverent, yet it sent a shock through me, a mixture of fear and ecstasy. I realized in that instant that the thrill of being acknowledged, truly seen, far outweighed the fear of being caught. You're different," she whispered, eyes tracing the contours of my face, the shimmer of makeup, the delicate details I had curated. Her words trembled, almost a confession of disbelief, admiration, and curiosity all at once. I swallowed, letting the blush on my cheeks deepen, letting the thrill of exposure mingle with the exhilaration of being understood. even if only partially. A sudden sound, our building's old elevator creaking, a neighbor's door slamming, made both of us flinch. My pulse spiked, and I felt the skirt cling tighter as I shifted nervously. But I didn't retreat. The fear, the danger, the thrill of near discovery, it all made me sharper, more alive, more present. Every inch of me radiated the duality I had embraced, fragile yet strong, vulnerable yet daring. Isabella stepped closer, voice barely audible. I had no idea this was inside you. Her eyes held mine, searching for truth, acceptance, understanding. In that gaze, I saw both judgment and fascination, fear and curiosity, disbelief and tentative admiration. And in that instant, I knew that what I had feared most, exposure, rejection, discovery, was now intertwined with the possibility of validation, connection, and even desire. I let my fingers brush the bracelet, grounding myself in the delicate weight, anchoring my courage. The heels pressed firmly into the floor, the skirt swayed subtly with my every heartbeat, and I could feel the electric tension between us humming in the room like a living thing. The reflection in the mirror caught the moment perfectly. Two selves intertwined, one revealed to the world, one daringly, terrifyingly, and gloriously alive. Then the elevator dinged faintly, a reminder that the outside world waited, that the bubble of tension could be pierced at any second. Isabella glanced toward the sound, her expression shifting from awe to concern, while I realized how fragile this moment truly was. The balance between revelation and concealment, exposure and protection, was razor-thin. Every breath, every heartbeat, every subtle shift of movement could tip the scales. But in that fraught, trembling instant, a realization struck me. Fear had brought me here, yes, but courage had allowed me to stay. Vulnerability had made this moment possible, and the acknowledgement from Isabella, tentative as it was, proved that the self I had hidden for so long could exist fully in the light. Her hand lingered near my cheek, eyes searching, lips parting as if to speak, but she hesitated. And in that hesitation, I felt a surge of empowerment unlike anything before. This wasn't just about being seen. It was about claiming my existence, embracing my duality, and daring the world, or at least this one person, to acknowledge it. The knock came again, this time from the apartment across the hall, a mundane sound, yet it jolted us both. I took a deep breath, skirt swaying, heels pressing into the hardwood. Whatever happened next, I knew I was ready. The thrill of exposure, the danger of discovery, and the intoxicating rush of transformation had merged into one electrifying, unforgettable moment. And as Isabella's eyes met mine again, soft, questioning, yet filled with awe, I realized that nothing would ever be the same. The fear, the thrill, the exhilaration, the vulnerability, they had all converged into a single truth. I had revealed myself fully, boldly, and unapologetically. And now, the next moment, the next choice, would determine everything. The apartment felt alive, charged with every heartbeat, every movement, every subtle shift of air. Isabella's eyes held mine, softening with something I couldn't quite name: curiosity, awe, disbelief, maybe even admiration. My reflection in the mirror caught my attention, and for the first time, I didn't flinch. I saw Ethan, yes, but I also saw the fully transformed self I had carefully and boldly unveiled. Delicate lace brushing my thighs, heels pressing confidently into the floor, makeup perfectly highlighting the audacity and vulnerability coexisting in me. The knock at the neighboring apartment came again, sharper, louder this time. My chest tightened. Exposure was imminent. Fear surged, but it was no longer paralyzing. It fueled the exhilaration thrumming through me. I was alive, fully present, and unashamed. Every inch of this revealed self demanded acknowledgement. Isabella stepped closer, her gaze steady now, lips parting slightly, as if testing the air. I didn't realize, her voice faltered, yet it carried a tremor of understanding. Her hand hovered near mine, almost touching, hesitant but drawn. I felt the electric charge of that near-contact ripple through me, grounding me in courage and vulnerability simultaneously. Suddenly, the key in the door clicked. My pulse leapt. My heels clicked sharply as I instinctively stepped back, skirts swaying, every movement deliberate. The world outside threatened intrusion. Every heartbeat hammered like a drum of imminent discovery. I could retreat, hide, undo the layers of revelation I had painstakingly embraced, but I didn't. Instead, I stood tall, letting the lace brush my legs, letting the necklace weigh delicately against my collarbone, letting the blush on my cheeks glow in the light. I was no longer just hiding. I was existing fully, unapologetically, boldly. The thrill of exposure, the risk of discovery, merged seamlessly with the intoxication of self-acceptance. Isabella's gaze softened even further, moving from awe to something deeper. You've changed," she whispered, almost reverently. "And I think I like this side of you. I like you like this." Her words hit me like a shockwave, validation, recognition, desire, and acceptance intertwined in a single breath. A noise outside the apartment, someone fumbling with keys, a distant shout, pulled us both into the present, a reminder that the world beyond this intimate, charged bubble of revelation still existed. I felt the tension coil like a spring, ready to snap at any sudden movement. Every glance, every whisper, every flicker of light through the window became a heightened sensory experience. And then, in that suspended, electric moment, a daring smile spread across my face. I took a careful step toward Isabella, heels clicking softly, skirts swaying with measured elegance. "I've always wanted to be seen," I admitted softly. "Not just by a mirror, not just in secret, but by someone who might understand." Her eyes widened, and for a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. The weight of confession, vulnerability, and exhilaration hung thick in the air. Then, finally, she extended her hand, brushing it lightly against mine. The contact was delicate, grounding, and electrifying all at once. A shiver ran through me, both from fear and thrill. The knock at the door came again, this time startling urgent. My pulse thundered, and the tension spiked to unbearable levels. Whoever was out there, neighbor, delivery, perhaps someone else, was about to see a truth I had risked everything to claim. My reflection in the mirror caught the moment, wide-eyed, radiant, trembling yet unbroken. And then, silence. A pause so thick it pressed against my chest. Isabella's hand lingered near mine, fingers almost brushing, eyes full of awe and something unreadable. I realized then that this wasn't just a moment of exposure. It was a threshold, a line crossed between secrecy and revelation, vulnerability and empowerment. The self I had hidden, nurtured, transformed, and dared to reveal was no longer just mine. It existed in the shared acknowledgement of someone else, and the stakes had never felt higher or more exhilarating. The knocking stopped. The hallway fell silent. The apartment felt suspended, frozen in the electric tension of possibility. I could hear my own breath, my own heartbeat, heels pressing firmly into the floor. And I understood, in that pulse of charged clarity, that this night had changed everything. Nothing would ever be the same. Not my identity, not my desires, not the thrilling, dangerous, intoxicating dance between exposure and empowerment. Isabella's lips parted again, voice soft but deliberate. "I don't know what happens next, but I want to see. I want to understand." And in that fragile, exhilarating declaration, I realized the truth. Fear had led me here, yes, but courage had allowed me to stay. Vulnerability had allowed me to be seen. And acknowledgement, tentative as it was, had transformed exposure into something beautiful, electrifying, and unforgettable. The reflection in the mirror caught my eye one last time. I wasn't just Ethan. I wasn't just a person in lace and heels. I was both, merged, alive, daring, trembling yet unbroken. The future remained uncertain, the next steps unknown, but the transformation, emotional, physical, psychological, was complete. The door remained slightly ajar, shadows stretching across the floor. City lights shimmered through the window. Heels clicked softly as I took a steadying breath, skirt swaying, necklace catching the light. The world outside had no idea what had just unfolded. And I knew, without a shred of doubt, that nothing would ever be the same again. The apartment was silent now, but the air thrummed with tension. Every heartbeat, every breath, every soft swish of lace against my legs felt amplified, suspended in a world that had shifted irreversibly. Isabella's eyes lingered on me, wide, curious, and almost reverent. I could sense the storm of thoughts behind her gaze: admiration, confusion, desire, and an unspoken question. What next? I perched lightly on the edge of the sofa, heels pressing into the floor, necklace glinting in the faint city light, skirt swaying with each subtle movement. Reflection caught in the mirror, and I saw it all. Ethan, the transformed self, vulnerability and boldness intertwined, trembling yet unbroken. Tonight, everything had changed. But the knock, the one that had haunted me all evening, returned. Softer this time, deliberate. It wasn't Isabella. It wasn't the neighbor. The sound sent a jolt of fear and exhilaration through me, sharp enough to make my pulse spike. I froze, heart hammering in my chest, every nerve alert. Was it someone from the outside world? Someone who could see me like this, exposed, vulnerable, alive? Isabella glanced at me, eyes narrowing slightly. "Should we check?" she asked softly, voice trembling with curiosity and caution. I shook my head subtly, urging calm. The thrill, the danger, the intoxicating risk of discovery, it all converged in this single, suspended moment. I tiptoed toward the door, heels clicking softly but deliberately, skirt swaying in rhythm with each heartbeat. My fingers trembled as they grazed the doorknob. The reflection in the mirror caught my movement, daring, fragile, and full of audacious defiance. I had crossed boundaries I had long feared, and now each sound, each shadow, each soft flicker of light carried the weight of potential revelation. The knock came again, more insistent. My pulse raced. I could feel Isabella behind me, close enough that her warmth brushed my shoulder. Her presence grounded me, but the adrenaline surged, part fear, part excitement, part uncontainable thrill. I realized that tonight was no longer about hiding, about pretending, about playing a secret game. Tonight was about existence. "Ethan, whoever it is, they're here," she whispered. Her hand brushed against mine lightly. The touch sent a jolt of electricity through me. Vulnerability, exposure, recognition, it all tangled into a breathtaking tension. Every fiber of my being thrummed with possibility. I opened the door just slightly, peeking through the crack. A shadow shifted in the hallway. I couldn't see clearly, but the presence was undeniable. Whoever it was, they knew nothing yet. The risk was delicious, terrifying, and intoxicating all at once. Then a faint voice whispered my name, soft, deliberate, filled with curiosity and something I couldn't place. My heart jumped. My reflection in the mirror caught my wide-eyed glance, trembling lips, and the delicate tilt of my head. Every detail screamed revelation. Every inch of my transformed self was at risk of being seen, understood, or judged. Isabella's hand squeezed mine slightly, grounding me, a silent acknowledgement of shared tension and thrill. I swallowed, taking a deep breath, skirt swaying, heels pressing firmly into the floor. The necklace against my collarbone seemed heavier, anchoring me to courage, defiance, and audacity. A soft chuckle echoed from the hallway, a sound that was light, teasing, and ominous all at once. My pulse spiked. The thrill of being seen, almost discovered, electrified every nerve ending. Vulnerability became a weapon, exposure a daring challenge, and the mirror reflected a self I had only just dared to acknowledge. "Who's there?" I whispered, voice trembling slightly, but firm enough to assert presence. The answer didn't come immediately. Just a pause, a silence thick with expectation, electric with suspense. Every heartbeat, every swish of lace, Every glint of light on the necklace was amplified in that moment. And then, a faint movement, a shadow at the end of the hallway, shifting closer. The knock returned, deliberate, persistent. Isabella's eyes widened. "Ethan, maybe we should," she trailed off, tension in her voice, eyes locked on the door. But I didn't move. I stood tall, heels clicking softly, skirt swaying with deliberate grace, reflection in the mirror daring me to be brave, daring me to embrace the thrill of this suspended moment fully. Whoever was at the door had no idea what awaited them, no idea of the transformation, the vulnerability, the audacious declaration of self waiting to be revealed. The doorknob rattled slightly, a faint creak accompanying it. My heart thundered. The suspense was unbearable. Exposure, validation, fear, desire, they all collided in a single, electrifying point. And in that moment, I realized something profound. The story was far from over. Tonight was just the beginning. I glanced at Isabella, her hand still near mine, eyes wide and shimmering with curiosity and tension. "Whatever happens next," she whispered, almost a murmur, "we face it together." I nodded slightly, breath steadying, skirt swaying with calm defiance. The reflection in the mirror caught me one last time. Delicate, daring, trembling yet unbroken. Vulnerable, empowered, alive. Then, the knock intensified, urgent, deliberate. My pulse spiked. The camera of the audience's imagination would be right there, peering through the keyhole with me, sharing the anticipation, the fear, the thrill. Whoever, or whatever, stood beyond the door was about to witness the fully revealed truth. And as the screen of imagination fades to black, the apartment silent, yet vibrating with suspense, the audience is left with one burning question. Who is at the door? Will Ethan's secret be exposed? How will Isabella react? The story ends for now,